Hi, lovely booktubers. I'm Debs. Welcome back to my channel, Raina Reads Stuff. I'm here in the book shack. It's Sunday. It's time for a weekly reading wrap up. And actually, I've had a really good week. Um, there are several events going on in April. I've managed to tick off some things for quite a few of them. Um, so let's start with my only audio book of the week, which was Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, which I read as part of the 24 and 24 banned books event that MJ at Reading This Life has set up. Um, I'd actually not read this before. It was it was narrated by the actor Michael York, and I thought the narration was great, other than one very slightly dodgy Welsh accent. But other than that, I thought it was a really good version. Um, Brave New World, the title is taken from words Miranda says in Shakespeare's The Tempest. It tells the story, it's a dystopian future, science fiction, and the world has been civilized in a way that people hope will stop any conflict and keep everybody happy and satisfied and healthy. So the world state covers part of the globe, and they genetically engineer children, citizens, new citizens in a hatchery. And these citizens are predetermined to a certain caste or class of people, depending on their intelligence. But their intelligence is doctored by adding or subtracting things, chemicals from the process while the babies are still embryos, and then they are preconditioned to learn certain things. So you end up with a variety of people of different intelligence levels who are destined to do different jobs that they are suited for. But you do have savage areas. Now, two people, Lenina and Bernard, who work at the hatcheries, decide to go on holiday, and they go to a savage area of New Mexico where they come across Linda. Linda was from the world state, also went on holiday to New Mexico, but got separated from her group and got left there. And she stayed there because one of the fellow travellers had got her pregnant. And so she stayed because natural pregnancy wasn't a thing. And she had her son John and she brought him up there. Now, Bernard gets permission to take Linda and John, who is now an adult, back to London, where they dose Linda up on a drug called Soma, which basically puts her into a dreamlike holiday. Um, Also kills her, but um, it's a dangerous drug. So if you take too much of it, you are going to die. But Linda has nothing else to do, so she takes the Soma. John, in the meantime, is hawked around London a bit like a travelling circus. And is a bit bemused by what's going on. He's educated. Linda's taught him to read, but the only things he's read It's a scientific manual, and then he found an old battered copy of the works of Shakespeare. So his view of life is taken from Shakespeare's texts, and it doesn't match up with the free sexual nature of the current civilized world. It's about how he tries to find a place in it and how alien it all seems to him. Now, this was banned and remains a challenged book. In fact, it was in the top books challenged in the United States for the decade 2010 to 2019, and also for the previous decade. It was first banned in Ireland. It's banned on the basis of sexual references, of bad language, of um, a lack of religion. Um, Religion has more or less been abolished. But this was written in 1931. It was published in 1932, and it's so clever and so sad, and also it's really thought provoking because it's something that could happen if people aren't too careful. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. That was really good. Um, Historathon 2024. We are now into the second quarter. April begins the second quarter of the year. And I decided that Vikings were going to be my theme for this second quarter. So I've been reading this Valkyries, The Women of the Viking World by Johanna, Katrin, Fridriksdottir. Probably butchered that. I wasn't sure about this to start with. I'm reading it as a buddy read with Finn from Revenant Reads and also Stephanie Cohen. Um, I'm also reading another Viking book, which is Neil Price's The Children of Ash and Elm. Neil Price is an archaeologist, and so that book is dealing with theories based on finds and on DNA. And this is looking more at what you can learn from literature. So it's looking at what evidence can be found in the Viking sagas. Now, I absolutely love the Viking sagas. My problem with that initially was that they were written down 400 years after they are meant to have happened. And in those 300 to 400 years, they were relayed by oral tradition. And so, a bit like Chinese whispers, things get distorted along the way, perhaps, perhaps not, but perhaps. But the more I read that book, the more I enjoyed it. And she is also looking at things like runestones and graves and um, picture stones. And it was really interesting. It divides up into chapters which start with birth and babies and childhood, and then go into the teenage years, and then women who are married off and their lives as wives and then mothers. And then there is a chapter on widowhood, because many were widowed either by their husbands dying in battle or being lost at sea or just by the arduous nature of their lives. And then it goes into old age and finally death. It relates to the sagas throughout the book, and that became more and more interesting to me as I went along. I would recommend this. It's very different to reading a book by an archaeologist or an historian, but it's absolutely fascinating and I really liked it. Next up, for Historathon, although I said I was concentrating on Vikings, I found this at the bottom of a bookshelf that had been hidden by a chair and thought, oh, that looks good. This is A History of Britain in Maps by Philip Parker, and it starts off with one of the earliest maps of Britain, which is a map of Roman roads. But the map itself was drawn by Matthew Paris, who was a Benedictine monk in St Albans in the 1300s. So it was 800 odd years after these roads had been put in place. So it's not a Roman map. There aren't any Roman maps of Britain. But it does include some very interesting maps, and it goes from the earliest maps to modern day. But this one, this is the Rudge Cup. It was found down a well in Hertfordshire, I think. No, Wiltshire. It might not look like a map, but it's actually a map of part of Hadrian's Wall. And these bits here are the garrisons and the walls in between. And it includes 5 garrison buildings, I think. We also have find the right page. That is a map of the battle lines for the Battle of Hastings. English up here, and these are the French down the bottom. And it includes some really interesting things in here. This one, that's a 13th century map of the route from Britain to Jerusalem via major churches. We also have a map of beacons that light the way if anyone threatens to invade Britain. There's so many things in here. That's a map that was commissioned by Thomas Cromwell, and it was for Henry VIII, who was worried about a French invasion on the south coast of Britain, showing the defences that were along the south coast. It goes up, like I say, to modern day maps. There's a map in here by John Snow of London. This was put together in 1854 and 1855, and you can't see it very clearly. That's a cholera map, and it helped him and the public health authorities appreciate that cholera was being spread via a water and a water pump. And when they closed down that water pump, the instances of cholera instantly dropped. And then, of course, we have can't see that one very clearly. But those are German bomber flight plans over the coast of England to London. There's a plan of the general strike. And then, of course, one of my favourite ever maps is the London Underground map, which I just think is a beautifully stylised example of graphics that make people's lives easier. If you did an actual map of the London Underground system, it would be so confused nobody would know where they were going. that this has really stood in the test of time. Harry Beck created it in 1933, and it's still used today. It's just got additions on it. And this one, that's a map of natural resources. According to this, Wales is full of sheep. But it's beautiful. It's a graphic style that I love from the 30s and 40s. That's a map of the Blitz bomb damage in London. This was fascinating. I love a good map. And that was really interesting. Anyway. Oh, the only other thing I've read for Historathon. Was there anything else in there? No. This is my read around Historathon. 3 Tang Dynasty poets. We have, these are from the 7th and 8th century, and we have Wang Wei, also known as Wang Yu Cheng. We have Li Po, also known as Li Bai, and Tu Fu, also known as Du Fu. And I loved these. These were great. I particularly liked Wang Wei. Beautiful pastoral poems with great imagery. So that was my poetry book for this week. Then we move into Spring into Adventure, which I am enjoying so much. It's unbelievable. I am a co-host of that, like I am with Historathon, and it's such fun. This week we were we were experiencing adventure stories in a different form. So I read this, Richard Hughes, A High Wind in Jamaica. I read it purely because I wanted to watch the film. The film of the same name came out in 1965. I found it free on YouTube, and it starred Anthony Quinn as a pirate captain, and he made a wonderful pirate captain. For those who don't know, A High Wind in Jamaica is the story of a family of children who are living in Jamaica. There's a huge storm which blows their house down. Their mother decides that they're running around the island like animals and they need a proper English education, and so she dispatches them back to England by ship. Shortly after they leave Jamaica with a couple of children from another family, the boat is boarded by pirates, and the children accidentally end up on the pirate ship as it sails off into the distance, having stolen the money from their original ship. The pirate captain and the eldest daughter, Emily, develop an affinity, and they don't exactly become friends, but they like each other. He looks out for her, and her oldest brother, John, is killed on the journey home. Eventually, they are rescued. I'm not going to tell you what happens at the end, but it's sad. It's a very good book. It was Richard Hughes' first book, and I really enjoyed it. Now, as we were looking at other formats, I was saying a couple of weeks ago that one of the book series that started me reading, well, 2 of them actually, were by Enid Blyton. And they were both boarding school ones. And I'd completely forgotten there was another series that I absolutely loved. I don't know what to call them, really. I suppose it's the Of Adventure series, because each title ended with Of Adventure. So this is the Castle of Adventure, and this is the Valley of Adventure. There was the Island of Adventure. Um, there were lots. There were lots. Anyway, we've got 4 children. Um, we have Philip and Dinah, who are brother and sister. They are brought up by their mum. Then we have another brother and sister called Jack and Lucianne, who are orphans. And Philip and Dinah's mother is looking after them as well. She sort of adopted them unofficially. And they get into all sorts of adventures. In this one, they go away with their mother. Their house is being redecorated or something. So their mother rents a cottage in the West Country at the foot of a hill with a castle on top of it. They're told not to go up to the castle because there's a landslide. But Jack's really keen on birds, and Philip is really keen on animals. So they persuade their mother if they keep away from the landslide bit, they can go up and have a look for some animals and local bird life. But there's more to the castle that meets the eye, and they run into spies. They have a friend called Bill, who is a very senior policeman who pops up every so often. Um, they run into him in town, and he's actually tracking the people they find at the castle. All very thrilling. Lashings of ginger beer. It's sort of Famous Five and Secret Seven-ish, but it's not those series. It's its own series. This one, Bill, has an aeroplane, and he's just learned to fly it. And it was written in 1947, this one. So he says he'll take the kids away on a night flight to his cottage, and they can stay with him for a few days. Their mother agrees. The taxi driver drops off their luggage outside a plane at a small airfield. Bill's a bit busy, tells them to go and get on the plane, so they go to where their luggage is, take their luggage up onto the plane. Problem is, it's the wrong plane, and they end up being flown to this remote valley. They don't know where they are. They have no clue where they are. But the people who have flown the plane don't look very nice. At least one of them's got a gun. They're not speaking English all the time, but they speak enough for the children, to realise that they're after some sort of treasure. Anyway, they run away and hide. They take their suitcases. They find somewhere to hide. And what these people are looking for is treasure that was stolen by the Nazis from the people in the valley and the surrounding areas and hidden away somewhere, but they don't know where it's hidden. They've got a map, but it's not working for them very well. Can the children figure out what's going on and get help? Because they've got no idea. They know they're in a foreign country, but they don't know which one. All very thrilling stuff. Finally, oh no, there's one more for Spring into Adventure. And this was also because I wanted to watch the film. Taras Bulba by Nikolai Gogol. 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 Whichever. The film, can't remember when it came out, starred Yul Brynner, who I absolutely love, and Tony Curtis, who is far too pretty to be a Cossack. It's a story about Cossacks. Taras Bulba is a father of 2 sons. His sons return home from being educated. He takes them off to a meeting of the Cossacks. They hear there that some Polish townspeople and soldiers have desecrated churches in the area. So this full band of Cossacks hammer off to go and find them and sort them out. It's the boy's first venture as an adult with the Cossacks, riding as a Cossack, being a part of the Cossack army. Um, Unfortunately, youngest son has already met by accident a girl that he's fallen for, and it turns out the girl that he's fallen for is living in the town that they have gone to um, destroy. She is the daughter of one of the leaders there, and he switches sides for love. T'other son becomes an extremely competent soldier, and it's the story of the battle there. The Cossack army is divided because something else happens, and off half of them go, and it's great. I have not read any Nikolai Gogol before, but I got from DelphiClassics.com his complete works. Um, Thoroughly enjoyed reading Taras Bulba. Didn't actually have time to watch the film, but I might fit that in yet. Who knows? Finally, and this really is finally, um, People April. I read Why Be Happy When You Could Be Normal by Jeanette Winterson. I am now going to have to read uh, Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit because I haven't read that before. Because this was brilliant. I don't know if you can see it. If I blow the cover up, it disappears. There it is. Jeanette Winterson was adopted into I'm not going to say family, but she was an only child in a family of very religious parents. Um, Her mother, who she refers to pretty much throughout the book as Mrs. Winterson, appears to have been a very strange fish. But she refused to sleep with her husband. Her husband worked nights, um, and so she would sleep when he wasn't there. On occasions, and it sounds like there were many occasions, she left the young Jeanette outside and wouldn't get out of bed to open the door. Her dad would let her in at 6 o'clock in the morning when he came home from night shift. No one would say anything about it. She says in there as if it was natural to leave your child sitting on the doorstep all night. They'd lock. She'd be locked in a coal shed. She had to undergo an exorcism when her mother discovered her in a lesbian relationship, and somehow she worked her way through that with the help of the library. Um, she wasn't brilliant at school, but she did then go on to college, and an English teacher took her under her wing, and she made her way to Oxford, and started publishing books, started writing books. It talks about her mental health issues, it talks about her sexuality, it talks about her relationship not only with her adopted mother and father, but also with her birth mother. It was brilliant. I really enjoyed it. Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit is semi-autobiographical, and I'm going to have to read that now. I've not read that before, but I'm interested to see how semi-autobiographical it is. But I don't read an awful lot of biographies. People April is a good excuse to do that. And I loved it. Right, coming up next week, we are on to the non-fiction section of Spring into Adventure. So I have got Queen of the Desert by Georgina Howe, which is the story of Gertrude Bell. I've also got The Great Arc by John Key, which is how India was mapped and how Everest was named. I have some others, but I don't think I'm going to get around to all of them. I have to finish Les Miserables. I haven't read a lot of it this week, so I've got some catching up to do there. Gabe Prill, books about Gables. This week we are reading Anne of Green Gables, so I'm looking forward to that. I have The Children of Ashnelm to finish, that I am reading with Stephanie Cohen, John David and Claire Shepherd. So that's got to be finished this week. So it's going to be another busy week. And if I can get round to it, the very nice librarian found me a book about Tove Jansson, a biography of Tove Jansson, who wrote the Moomins. They're Moomins, if you don't know what Moomins are. I'll try and fit that in too. Well, that's a long video. I'm very sorry I talk too much. I hope you've had a lovely reading week. My reading week's been great. Really enjoyed it. Let me know what you're reading in the comments below. Please like and subscribe. I'm getting dangerously close to 500 subscribers, so thank you everybody who has subscribed to the channel already. I'm really grateful. And yeah, leave a chat. Let me know what you're reading, and if you've read any of these, let me know what you thought. Thank you for stopping by. It's lovely to see you as always, and I will speak to you very soon. Bye for now.